Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is it worth it to buy Edge of Eternities? Yes, it absolutely is worth it to buy Edge of Eternities, Magic the Gathering's newest set. It's amazing, and if you have not yet signed up to play in a pre-release or draft event at your local game store, you absolutely should do so because, honestly, it's some of the most fun I've had playing Magic the Gathering this entire year. No, really, this is just me. I have had so much fun drafting this set, playing sealed with this set. It's so well designed. Now, don't confuse that as me saying that these standard decks are worth it to buy because, oh my God, they're going for how much? That's a standard deck? That's what it costs now to play standard? I've got thoughts on that in another video, and I will, of course, talk about these Commander precons and whether or not they're worth it to buy as soon as they hit shelves, but for draft, pre-release, and sealed, yeah, I already played it all. It's gone because I played it all. Edge of Eternities is fantastic. Sign up for pre-release or draft at your local game store. It's worth it. I'm sorry, what's that? Is it worth it to buy a booster box to get cards for your Commander deck? No, don't do that. Don't buy a booster box for cards for Commander. Don't buy booster packs for cards for Commander. Just buy the singles you need for the Commander decks that you play. Oh, but what are the singles you need, you ask? Well, this video will cover the best new cards for Commander that you should buy as singles at your local game store for the 99 of your Commander decks. Now, I could easily talk about 20 cards from this set that will be fantastic in your Commander deck, but we don't have all day. So I'm going to be very judicious in what I include in this list. And right off the bat, I am going to eliminate an entire swath of cards that will definitely be good in Commander, but aren't quite as new or exciting to talk about as some of the other ones that I want to focus on in this video. For this list, I'm going to be ignoring what I think of as the warped versions of classic Commander staples. What do I mean by that? Well, there are at least half a dozen cards in this set with effects identical to, or at least really similar to, cards that have seen lots of Commander play for years. So mechanically speaking, the only real difference is that these cards all have very cheap warp costs so that you can get a turn with the effects for very little mana investment. These cards are really cool, and some of them are especially good for setting up explosive, potentially game-winning turns, but they're not what I want to focus on this video. I want to look at new, unique, or original designs, or stuff closer to it. So I won't be talking about these cards, any more than I already have been. Not talking about these cards starting now. Alright, look, I had to at least mention them, or half the comments in this video would be, "Hey, Prof, why didn't you mention this great new warp card? Are you stupid?" No, I'm intentionally not mentioning them, but I guess now that I've pointed this out, people are gonna jokingly say, "Hey, Prof, why didn't you mention this new warp card? Are you stupid?" Alright, let's talk about new stuff, and there certainly is a lot of really cool new cards for your Commander deck. 7 of them to be exact. Well, technically 11, but you'll see. As always in this video, if we talk about a legendary creature, it is as a utility in the 99 of your Commander deck and not meant to serve as Commander, which it very well could, but we are focusing here on the 99. All of that and more are what's in store, so let's... Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know about you, but anytime I start to get bored, my brain checks out of whatever it is I was trying to pay attention to. That's a problem when you're trying to learn something that's genuinely important, like how to code. That's why I love, we're in the ad, what the folks at boot.dev, sponsor of today's video, have accomplished. All joking aside, I love boot.dev because it literally takes the idea of you learning everything there is to know about a video game and saying, why can't you apply that to coding? You see, boot.dev is an online self-paced course in back-end web development that feels like you're playing a captivating role-playing game. The platform gets you writing a ton of code in both the Python and Go programming languages because the only way to learn this incredibly useful skill is by actually doing it yourself. And the only way to remember it, to really master it, is to have fun while you're doing it. You play your way through the game, you earn XP, you go up in levels, you gain achievements, you complete quests, all by completing projects. And if you get stuck stuck on any given concept, Boots, a powerful bear wizard AI, can walk you through your issues using the Socratic method of asking guiding questions rather than just telling you the answer. One of my favorite parts about Boot.dev is they aren't out here trying to take money from anyone who doesn't connect with the lessons. All of their content is free. That's right, free to read and watch in guest mode. If you want to start interacting with the lessons, then you can pay for a membership, but even then, Boot.dev offers a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. In case you couldn't tell, I'm a huge fan of Boot.dev. That's why I keep working with them. If you want to give Boot.dev a try, click the link in the video description box and use my code Tolarian to get 25% off of your first month or even your first year if you choose the annual subscription. And hey, thank you Boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Okay, the first card on this list won't see a ton of play at more competitive tables, but it is exactly the kind of card casual players are going to love. Moonlight Meditation is an aura for 2 generic and a blue mana that enchants an artifact or creature you control. The first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of enchanted permanent. So if you make, say, a Drake token off of a Talrand while Moonlight Meditation is enchanted to your Soul Ring, you are going to make a second Soul Ring instead. Some of my favorite kinds of magic cards are those that ask you open-ended questions. What can you do with Moonlit Meditation? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do with Moonlit Meditation? The utility on this card is incredibly wide. I mentioned Soul Ring already, a fantastic card to make a pile of copies of, but you can also enchant a value creature like a Solemn Simulacrum, or Eternal Witness to keep searching up lands or buying back cards from your graveyard. Just as with any other effect gated by a once-per-turn clause, Moonlight Meditation gets better if you're capable of creating tokens at instant speed. There are tons of ways to do this, of course, between various token-generating abilities and one-off instants that create tokens. And of course, if you can create multiple tokens at once, like by casting a big Secure the Wastes, Moonlight Meditation will look utterly ridiculous. The biggest downside of Moonlit Meditation is the same downside associated with every aura. If the permanent it enchants is removed, that's an automatic 2-for-1. Moonlit Meditation is especially vulnerable to this downside since the effect requires the permanent it enchants to survive through the resolution of the ability. For that reason, Moonlit Meditation is probably better suited to more casual tables with less interaction, but at those tables, it's going to be an all-star card. And honestly, even if your opponents do eventually point a removal spell at the enchanted permanent, if you've already made a bunch of tokens of said permanent, who cares? All right, let's move on to number 6 on this list, an awesome new card for use in the 99 of your Commander deck. Coming up at number 6, it's Chalice of the Void. Wait a minute, no it's not. It's Chorale of the Void, a 4-mana black aura that enchants a creature. When enchanted creature attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking. That is pretty cool, but there is a void-based downside. At the beginning of your end step, you must sacrifice the Chorale unless a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn. Note that you don't have to control the permanent that left, or the spell that was warped. This is such a cool card. Black is no stranger to cards that let you steal your opponent's best stuff, or even steal stuff from their graveyards. I mean, Actual Factual Reanimate is capable of doing exactly that, but this card does it with much more style, don't you think? And best of all, it does so repeatedly, and without any life loss or other drawback associated with the reanimation itself. There are a few things you'll want to do to make the most of Chorale of the Void. The first is either enchanting it to an evasive creature like a flyer or a Dothy Voidwalker, which will ensure your enchanted creature survives combat. Alternatively, you can pair it with plenty of removal to both clear any blockers and stock your opponent's graveyard with juicy reanimation targets. Speaking of stocking your opponent's graveyard, giving yourself plenty of great cards to choose from is a must. Removal spells, mass discard spells, and mill spells are all great ways to set up your Chorale of the Void. Finally, and most subtly, your Chorale of the Void will really appreciate it if you reanimate your opponent's creatures more than once in a turn. There's a few ways to do that, but the two easiest ways are with extra combat steps like Seize the Day, or with means of doubling your triggers. Say, with an Ishin 2 Heavens in 1 deck. If you return even 2 creatures with Chorale of the Void, you'll be thrilled with the value that it has generated for you. Next up is an enchantment that is a fantastic and thankfully brand new effect for landfall decks in Commander. Bioengineered Future costs 1 generic and 2 green mana and creates a Lander token when it enters play. If you haven't encountered Lander tokens before, they're really straightforward. Artifact tokens that, for 2 mana, can be tapped and sacrificed to effectively put a rampant growth onto the stack. The Lander token is nice, but the main reason to run this card is its second ability. Each creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter for each land that entered the battlefield this turn. Oh baby, is this a strong card. 3 mana is not much for the power boost this card provides your creatures. Not only is this a great card early in the game, casually buffing your creatures by 1 or 2 power if your land drops consist of fetch lands, but once you start getting exploration effects in play that increase your land drop count, your creatures are all going to be as tall as mountains, or as forests, I guess. Maybe mountains if you're a Gruul deck. And in the end game, when you're casting your Scape Shifts or Splendid Reclamations, or Awaken the Woods or whatever else, any future creatures you do cast, or more realistically, any creature tokens you make off of landfall triggers, are going to be so unbelievably big that any given one of them might be capable of taking an opponent out in a single swing. I love this card. I love it. I love that it's a potent win condition for a cheap mana investment that still requires you to have other stuff going for you in order to actually translate its effect into a winning board state. With Bioengineered Future in play and a couple other tricks up your sleeve, I could see this being a solid Commander win con, and at the very least, a huge threat that hits the board under your control. What a powerful card design. Great card. Landfall players are eating well this set. But next, we need to talk about a different card type, specifically artifacts. Number 4 on our list is an awesome card advantage engine for red artifact decks, Memorial Vault. This is a red artifact for 4 mana with a single ability. Tap it and sacrifice an artifact to exile the top X cards of your library, where X is 1 plus the mana value of the sacrificed artifact. You may play those cards this turn. Red artifact decks are often looking to sacrifice artifacts for value, and this is some of the most value you could ever ask for when you sacrifice an artifact. While the card advantage is limited by the number of cards you are actually able to play on the turn you exile them, you'll still be looking at a lot of cards. And the further into the game you get, the more likely it is that each activation of Memorial Vault will effectively draw you 3, 4, 5, even more cards. You can even sacrifice tokens to look at 1 card if you want, since it's the mana value +1. A critical component of this card is that the card advantage it provides gives you the fuel to generate future card advantage. Yes, sacrificing artifacts, especially bigger artifacts, is a finite resource, but if you sacrifice something like an Ichor Wellspring, and then hit another artifact off the top of your deck, you'll be set up to activate the vault again on your next turn. Red decks that are built around looping massive artifacts like Spine of Ishsaw or Portal to Phyrexia will absolutely love putting one of these artifacts in play. Then popping it to your Memorial Vault to exile 8, 10 cards, all to potentially cast and setting you up to cheat the big artifact into play all over again. This is a great card, and for all its simplicity, it's a genuinely exciting and fresh design. I had so much fun talking about the last 3 mana green enchantment that I'm about to do it all over again, but this one also has to do with +1/+1 counters. Terra Symbiosis costs 2 generic and a green mana and reads, whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this, sadly, only once each turn. I've spoken before that I find the once per turn method for balancing a strong effect somewhat clunky, and this card is no exception. But with how many cards in Commander that are capable of putting many +1/+1 counters on a creature, I do understand why they had to do it here. The templating also means you can get additional triggers if you have a means of putting counters on a card on an opponent's turn, like with instant speed abilities. Something to remember with Terra Symbiosis is that the ability is a May ability. Yes, you're going to want to trigger this card basically every turn you can, but you get to be choosy about when you're drawing the cards. You don't have to do it the first time you put +1/+1 counters on a creature. Maybe you have an effect that puts a few counters on a creature first that will then set up an even greater quality of counters later in the turn. Decline the card draw on the first instance of counter contribution, and then draw your fistful of cards for the second one. I can't imagine a deck that cares about +1/+1 counters and doesn't want this card. It only costs 3 mana. It's not hard to draw these cards immediately on the turn you cast this thing, and that's a fantastic rate for the card, even if you stop there. In a typical game of Commander, I'd expect Terra Symbiosis to easily draw 10, 15, maybe even 20 cards, if the absurd card advantage doesn't serve you up a win before that. All right, I never do this, but in order to introduce the second best card, please allow me to offer you up a meme. Everyone say hello to Icetill Explorer, our latest Crucible of Worlds effect. If you're thinking, but didn't we get a Crucible of Worlds effect 2 sets ago? And then again 2 sets before that? Well, to that I say, yes, we did. But this one is even better than the previous 2. Hooray! Icetill Explorer is a 2/4 Insect Scout for 2 generic and 2 green mana. It's got 3 abilities, and they're all heaters. Ability number 1, you may play an extra land each turn. Ability number 2, you may play lands from your graveyard. And ability number 3, Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, mill a card. I mean, what else do you want me to say? This card is freaking busted. Honestly, it's possibly the single most powerful card in the set for Commander, but it's losing out on the number 1 slot for 2 reasons. First, it's narrow. You'll only play this card in lands decks and green graveyard decks. And secondly, I'm petty, and I'm tired. I'm just tired of Crucible of Worlds effects on my channel. Crucible of Worlds is a fantastic effect in Commander Landfall decks, allowing you to guarantee the maximum number of land drops each turn if you have a fetch land in your graveyard. It lets you freely sacrifice cards for value to things like Constant Mists or Gitrog Monster. It's the reason Crucible of Worlds was a billion-dollar card for decades. Until, of course, Wizards R&D suddenly decided that every other set should have another version of this effect. Icetill Explorer might be the best Crucible effect ever. Coming strapped to a green creature is great for tutorability reasons. Letting you play an additional land each turn is an unheard of add-on for a Crucible of Worlds. And that landfall ability of milling a card? Come on, that's just absurd. Seriously, the self-mill component of Icetill Explorer is likely going to be the most underrated aspect of this card. This is a Crucible of Worlds effect that fuels itself, as well as any other graveyard synergies your deck may have, all while doing the thing it's already trying to do, which is to help you hit a bunch of land drops. Think about Icetill Explorer with the Gitrog Monster in play. Not only will you get to play lands you mill out of your graveyard, but those lands will draw you cards when they hit the yard too. We did it, fam! We broke Gitrog Monster in Commander! And you know, we're probably already well past the point of oversaturation of Crucibles in Commander. You're already not going to run every single copy available to you, since redundant copies of Crucible of Worlds don't do anything useful. Which I guess is why they keep printing versions of this effect with additional upside. Icetill Explorer is still a great draw when you already have another Crucible in play. You know, I think, honestly, we've reached the point where optimized Commander lands decks don't need to run the actual card Crucible of Worlds anymore. Wow, I don't even know what to say at this point. So what do I think is the number 1 best new card from Edge of Eternities for the 99 of your Commander deck? Well, it's a tie between 2 cards. Actually, it's kind of a tie between 3 to 4 cards. You know what? Let's just throw all 5 of them in. I gotta talk about these cards. Number 1 on the list is the cycle of the new planet lands at Mythic Rare. What are planets, you ask? Well, Jace, they're lands, and they're also stations. Station lands. As I explored in my preview card video, which you didn't watch because both of our cards got leaked, Station is a new mechanic from Edge of Eternities that's perfectly suited to the Commander format. At sorcery speed, you can tap creatures to your station to put charge counters on it equal to the creature's power. Once you reach a requisite threshold stated on the card, your station is turned on and you get the effect written on the card. Most station effects in the Edge of Eternities are on spacecrafts, but the cycle of planets are stations on land cards. As such, they have virtually zero downside to include in your deck. Commander players love to cheat. There's more. On their land counts, and the station lands are the perfect excuse to do that. You know, Wizards R&D, they're just encouraging bad deck building habits here. There's 1 planet for each mono color. All 5 planets enter tapped and they all turn on once you reach 12 charge counters. And literally all 5 of them provide an excellent payoff to their commander decks. The blue and green planets turn into slightly weaker versions of infamously broken lands, specifically Tolarian Academy and Gaia's Cradle. Yeah, Gaia's freaking Cradle. Sure, you have to pay a mana to activate them, but the sheer amount of mana they'll generate on the back end will be well worth that initial investment. The white planet makes legendary copies of artifacts and enchantments you control, while the black planet turns sacrificed creatures into card draw at the cost of 2 mana and 2 life. And the red planet, which is the weakest of the 5 by quite a bit, still turns sacrificed lands into 2/2 robots and grants your whole team haste. But even that will likely see play since it has a lot more upside than a basic mountain. You know, commander board states often get bogged down with creatures that make forcing damage through difficult, and these board states are great opportunities to start tapping a few of your creatures to your station effects. 12 is not a difficult number to reach either, and before you reach it, the lands still produce useful colors of mana. Again, the reason these cards are so strong is because they cost you nothing to run. All you're going to do is replace a basic land in your deck with one of these planets. Virtually every deck in these colors is going to want to run these cards. But that, of course, is just my list, and now I want to hear from you. What are your favorite new cards from Edge of Eternities for your Commander 99? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, it is absolutely worth it to attend a pre-release event at your local games store. If you have not already signed up for one, or perhaps a future Friday Night Magic draft of Edge of Eternities, I cannot recommend it enough. It is absolutely worth it. Next week is our own pre-release week with a special pre-release episode of Shuffle Up and Play on Monday, followed by our pre-release guide on Wednesday, so be sure to check those videos out. Thanks again to Boot.dev, who makes learning to code as easy as learning a video game. You know all the different Pokemon, right? You know all their different types and attacks. You know everything about every Magic card ever written, so why not apply that to learning to code? Well, with Boot.dev, you can, because it makes learning Python and Go programming languages the same as learning a game like Pokemon or Magic. So go give Boot.dev a try. Just click the link in the video description box below and use my code Tolarian to get 25% off your first month, or even your first year if you choose the annual subscription. And hey, thank you, Boot.dev, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Today, I have brought in CEDH players, but we've built casual decks? I told you bracket 1.
You did not.
Yes, I did.
You said you're changing the rules.
You texted me. I came up with this content idea.
I thought it was just casual. I know it was a firm bracket.
Wait, what's yours? Is your higher
Mine's
bracket?
bracket 1.
Okay.
You're always bracket 1. No, hang on. Do you normally just carry a Geiger counter around with you?
Did you buy this from Bethesda?
So, you know, it's a milk, right?
So it's after you draw. What you do for that is...
Thank you. Sorry. Yes.
I hate that.
That's much better. It makes.
I take 5, going down to...
I
I don't know what this is. What are you doing?
It's the tune Take 5. It's a jazz standard.
You got Brubecked.